Hi, I'm Terry Murphy from the Data Advocate, and today we have a special guest with the Data Advocate Update, and that is Sam Debord. He is the CEO of RESO, the Real Estate Standards Organization. Got to meet him in Paris for the MLS International Forum, and very impressed with some of the work that RESO does. I've invited him here today to tell us a little bit about his takeaways from the MLS International Forum that was just held in December in Paris, France. Welcome.
Thank you, Terry. Great to be here and good to see you again, even if virtually this time.
Virtually is probably our best bet. Well, Sam, you're pretty impressive. You've written a book, the primary author of Working with Real Estate Data, and really there's so much technology and standards that people don't realize. And one of the things I learned in Paris was, because we had a representation from just every country, it was magnificent, really, was why standards are so important and what they're looking to get from that. What did you take away from the Paris meetings?
Yeah, I think that it really just showed there is a real desire for this. There's a real desire for the kind of standards, order, rules that make marketplaces just simpler to transact in. You had a great session on rules and regulations to keep data consistent. You got to talk to, I think, folks from what, 35 countries or so that were there. It was quite a workload of interviewing for you while you were there, but obviously you're a pro at that job. You could feel the energy there. Folks were excited because they see the business opportunities. They know that while their markets are going to be different, while they're going to have some different rules and regulations and different languages that they work in, the North American MLS has been very beneficial to businesses, to economies and governments, frankly, but also just to consumers for that transparency and the ability for those brokers to just work with consumers. So it's exciting to see. We think it's a lot when the US has a bunch of people fly in for an event in LA. But when you've got folks coming in from 5 continents, that's a real commitment to an event like that. And it was really empowering feeling that these folks all want to work on the same sort of initiatives to make this happen.
Well, you had actually sent an email back right before the event talking about the different guests that were there, and we had Guy, who's the European, that's the European Association of Real Estate, called SEPI. We had Real Tina, of course, which was the title sponsor. It was pretty amazing to me, the representation of the different countries and their, can I say the word, passion for wanting to put together or at least initiate some kind of standards. And RESO, tell us a little bit about RESO standards so that the people that are watching or listening can get a handle on why this is so pivotal to any kind of real estate organization.
Sure. A lot of what we do is the work you don't see. It's the work underlying the technology. You all use technology all day, every day, and your systems are all talking to each other. You can think of the standards we do a lot like open standards like Bluetooth or Wi-Fi. You use these all the time to connect Sony headphones to an Apple phone, to connect your laptop in the airport to a Wi-Fi system. You just don't think about it, but those are open standards. They're just technology languages that let each kind of device talk to each other. That's very similar to what we do at RESO, is we build a technology language that hundreds and hundreds of member organizations come together and agree upon is going to work. And that way, when their systems want to talk to each other, when you want to get a CMA report to a consumer, a listing alert, when you want to have a broker input a listing in the MLS and have that flow out to a consumer-facing website or app, all those systems can talk to each other because they use that same language that we create at RESO with our member organizations.
Well, that's a pretty comprehensive job, because having been in the real estate industry for way too many years, I remember the struggles that we had for consistency, just the fields for descriptions. And then if you look at the advancement of technology and connection and interfaces, it's amazing to me how complicated it's gotten. And yet, like you said, it seems so seamless. We just use it, right? It's sort of like you flip the switch and the electric goes on.
Well, and there's always work to be done. There's always improvements to be done. We would never say what we do is perfect because technology is always changing. But it has gotten much, much easier because the biggest names in brokerage, in MLS, in consumer and business technology and real estate have all devoted their time and their employees and sent their subject matter experts to these RESO meetings to build these standards so that everybody agrees they'll help us move forward with technology. And it's an open way for us all to collaborate through those. So it's highly complex, but it doesn't have to be for the end user, for the broker, for the consumer on a website, really anybody working in the industry or consuming real estate information. You shouldn't have to know much about what RESO does, except that it's kind of your Bluetooth for your real estate information.
And it works, because when it doesn't, we're all going to be calling Sam. So I know we had some very, very intelligent visionaries that were attending the meeting. And like you said, 35 countries. My panel alone had Romania, Georgia, Bulgaria, and Hungary representations. And when you get out of the US, so to speak, and you see what their challenges are and why they want it to work, in your opinion, what's going to be one of the bigger challenges? Let me go back to say that we went in carefully, that not that we had, like you just said, it's not perfect here, but it's certainly, we've got a couple 100 million hours and years of building it so that it has worked, it floats.
Right.
What do you think our challenges are going to be going forward? Because it appears to me that we're going to be meeting because the need is there again, and flying somewhere as well.
Yeah, I think inertia and friction are the problem for any technology initiative. Things sort of work, and people are used to doing things the way they always have. And change isn't that much fun for a lot of people, and that's what slows down businesses from making that kind of change. So that's a very generic answer, but I feel like it's our number one competitor at RESO. It's just inertia of people who have systems in place that are not wonderful, but they're kind of working and doing the job at a mediocre level. So that's from kind of a process management side. It's always difficult. I think the other challenge and really opportunity will be continuing to be flexible, continuing to find the things that work, because we covered both MLS organizations, multiple listing services, and data standards during that event. And they work very well together, but they also can exist separately. And MLS is, you've got to be able to have the rules and the governance and the systems in place for those brokers and their consumers to work together. And then data standards is much more of a technical process of making your technology systems work. And where they interlap, there's a lot of benefit there. But those things are going to just be different in different countries. We worked with Realtina, the title sponsor, on a multi-language way of expressing the data. So you've got a universal technology language through standards, but you can express that in any other language from any country that you want to use your software in. So each country will have to find those components that work for their nuances in their local areas.
Well, I agree with you on that, because how do you, as we talk about going forward and how being flexible, it seems to me like technology changes while we inhale. And I know that you've got a strategic plan for 2024. In your opinion, how do we keep up with all of that? Because it just seems like the more organized we get, and we saw this with efficiencies. We found it with like the lock boxes, which used to just be like little, mechanical things that you did with an alphabet, and now they're digitized and there's background checks and there's everything else. So as this becomes more collaborative, how do you see keeping up with it? Do you have a particular strategy? Do you look for certain partnerships? What do you think is going to happen in 2024 that will enhance both the value and the need for RESO and RESO standards?
Yeah, I like the way you put that is, things are getting a lot more collaborative. That's a positive spin on it. The other side of that is our systems are getting much more dependent on each other to work. That integrated, seamless expectation we have of an experience with technology requires that a lot of different companies are aware of their data partners, of opportunities, of changes that are coming. And you can't just go solo and build your own without knowing what that collaboration or interoperability is going to be needed with those technology partners. So that's really important for us. We've got an interoperability work group that looks kind of big picture at things like transaction management and lockbox, like you said. We had all of the big technology companies and MLSs come together to work on showing data to make sure if they wanted to have multiple showing services, those systems could talk to each other. So it's important for people who are building technology or just purchasing technology for their companies and their customers to be able to look big picture and see, is this something that's going to make that experience for my customers or my employees the experience we expect, which is a smooth technology process throughout their day.
That's just a beautiful way you put that, because at the end of the day, it's our consumer, and there's different consumers. There's brokerages and companies, and then there's the agents themselves, and then there's the end user, which is the consumer, and they want that trust and they want that transparency, but they also expect this kind of seamlessness. Don't you agree? And
We talked about it as a smartphone experience. Everything that Apple did on the iPhone, everyone expects everywhere else, and that's not an easy thing to do.
Yes, I know. Well, if someone wanted more information about RESO or to get you to present to them or their group, what's the best way to reach you?
The most straightforward way for information is reso.org. If you want to just get general information, you could email info@reso.org. Or if you have a specific question for me, I'm happy to talk. My email is sam@reso.org. That's RESO.org.
Well, you are gracious to spend some time with us today at the Data Advocate. We're planning on doing a series because it seems like this is going to be updating constantly, and you are the celebrity authority in all things RESO. Thanks so much for joining us, and join us again for another segment on the Data Advocate.
Thanks, Terry. Looking forward to your next sessions.